Okay, this is the fourth time I'm starting this video, and I think I keep restarting because I am wasting a lot of time, and I'm realizing that my doing these videos is sort of like a code review, and that I'm seeing a lot of problems with my current setup. This is the video on keyboards, and I feel strongly about them. I'm passionate about them. I have this keyboard called the Glove 80 by Mo Ergo, which they recently got past the tariff issue and they're shipping to the US again, so that's fun. Why can't I find actual where to buy it? I think it's a separate site and I'm stuck in the layout editor area. There it is. Beautiful. That's actually the exact same one I have, except for all the keycaps are blank. I think I've distilled my thoughts on this, and so that's what I'm going to share. I might have another rambly video that's like 40 minutes long, just going into all of the rambling that I have. But let me just hit some high points here. So, yeah. Why would you get into keyboards? Well, it's something that if you're coding or writing or many other professions, you're using it all the time, and it is something that either you kind of just want it to get out of the way, in which case I would say like learn your defaults really, really well. Whatever operating system you're using, whatever programs you're using, learn all the keyboard shortcuts and be able to hit those on a keyboard. In reality, unless you have other reasons, you can become extremely fast and proficient on the regular Mac keyboard. This is how I spent most of my career. And that's fine, right? Mac keyboard. Can I just get to like a thing? This is basically similar to the one that I had with the 10 key. It actually, yeah, it was wired. So it's nice and fast. It's close enough to the laptop keyboard so I didn't have to worry about changing anything in my head when I'm switching back and forth. Boo. So just saying like, I kind of like the way the switches feel, or saying like, I want to be like faster or more fluid, more proficient. I would get my words per minute up. I don't think that's a great reason, honestly. But the way that I think about productivity, and I think I stole this from Primogen and maybe Joe Boyle from Runtime Rundown, is that if you enjoy something, there are all these moments throughout the day when you're like, kind of want to go get breakfast. I want to get coffee. I'm feeling, how are you feeling internally? Do you have like a knot in your stomach about the work that you're about to do? That kind of stuff. How do you spend your mornings and your evenings? Are you like trying to get away from the computer? Are you trying to get back to the computer? Those moments add up a lot. And if you can say that I'm going to dedicate a bunch of time and energy into Vim and a custom keyboard that I'm just clicking the keys right now, literally, and it's like pretty enjoyable because I'm like barely moving my fingers, and I really like the way that I set up my keyboard because it's completely mine. It's very like form fitting around my literal neurons in my brain and how I think about doing things. And that's where the productivity comes in, because there's all these moments where like I'm just on my computer programming or fiddling with Vim configs and stuff, and like trying out a new plugin and 99% of the time rejecting it because I can already do that in a different way, you know, although I did just switch. I got oil in here. Anyway, that's where I'd say like the productivity comes in. If you don't see yourself as a person that might do that, I wouldn't say that getting a split ergo or, you know, columnar keyboard with 6 thumb keys on each side is it's a lot of work and it's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort, and you tend to like the things that you put a lot of effort into and eventually get. And so if that's the direction you want to go, you can do it. You can do it. This is a joke from Freedom, and you can do it. One of my favorite things. So let's assume you think maybe this is an adventure you want to go down. It's not cheap. That's the unfortunate thing. And so you kind of want to go with something, in my opinion, you want to look at customer support, unless you're going to like 3D print your own and wire it all up yourself. Even that is not, sometimes even can be more expensive, you know, especially considering if you have to buy a 3D printer or something. So I would recommend going with something like Moonlander. This is the first one that I tried, Kinesis Glove 80. Let's take a look at some of these and I'll kind of give you my initial thoughts. I don't understand this giant thumb key. I never got used to that. It is columnar, meaning everything is in a line, which is nice, and that takes a little bit of getting used to, but not too bad. It has the extra keys in the middle, similar to the, let me just get the other keyboards over here. Similar to the, the Kinesis. Can I get a picture? Can I get a picture? I thought I was on a thing with a picture. Whoa. So the Kinesis has these extra keys underneath that I call curl keys, because you kind of curl your fingers in to hit those. Those are really nice once you get used to them. It takes a little bit of getting used to. I always hit mix these two up, especially my middle finger, and like hitting is that the C key or is that the curl key? But they also have these extra 3 in the middle, but for that you're like reaching your pointer fingers in a little bit. And so the Glove 80 does not have those, but the Moonlander does. And it has this thing. It has this it's called the Moonlander because you can kind of, you adjust the little knobs and then you kind of set it down right to the perfect sort of 3-point connection on your desktop, so you can have it at the right angle or wherever you want. Really cool, really well made, and really good tools for editing the layout, which I think is important because personally I'm editing my layout all the time. I'm on over 170 changes to my layout and reflashing the keyboard, which maybe you don't, other people are like, no, I'm just going to go stock. I think that's what Primeagen does. He switches to Dvorak and just goes stock. And sure, that's fine. What I have said in the other times I started this video is that's insane. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, no, actually, that's fine. You got arrow keys here. You got arrow keys here. You can hit them. I would do stuff. I would engage in the community. If you're going to do any modding at all, go on the Discord for MoErgo, or I don't know if Kinesis has one. There's a ton of people talking about years. This guy, Sunaku, Sunaku, Sunaku. If you just search Sunaku, you'll get to his stuff. He has this Homer mods. He has this symbols layer that he spent over 10 years on. There it is. Symbols layer. No, not that. There it is. So he has the symbols layer. You hit this layer key and you get this on your left hand. He's got all these laid out nicely for coding and for Vim, end of line, beginning of line. He's got the bigrams, which is when you're hitting 2 keys frequently in succession, like these two together, these two together. These two are a little bit less common. So he put a ton of work into that. So, this is like open source. It's like free. You can just like steal this ideas and just lay it onto your keyboard and then invest your time and effort into learning that. And then once you have a good base, once you have a solid, like, okay, I'm used to the linear layout, I'm used to the split, I'm used to hitting the thumb keys instead of the outer keys for backspace, and used to putting space on only one hand, and you get used to all these things in succession. You sort of have this, formulate this base, then I'd say you can start branching out and saying, well, what if I move this key? Well, I in particular use X program, and this program has this certain thing that I always do. What if I moved something around? But be careful, because Let me just show my layout. What is going to happen is you get into these situations where you haven't spent 10 years figuring something out. This is my layout right now. It's a little crazy, but like, let me just give you an example, right? Normally, or on the default layout, the up and down keys are here. I have an arrow layer that I hit my pinky, and then HJKL becomes my arrows, so that my arrows are the same as Vim, up, down, left, right. And so then I freed up these keys, and then I could put the braces here, and instead of having to hit shift bracket to get my braces, and that saves me on a lot of, like, when I'm bouncing around tabs and things, having to hit extra keys. And then I put the parens up there, so I have all of my parens and braces and everything on the base layer. But now I moved those, they moved the arrows, and now I have other problems, like how do I hit arrow keys with Alt Shift or Command Shift or home? I don't have home or end and shift and arrows, which I couldn't do with the default layout because now I have to hit this layer key. So like there are these cascading effects of any little change that you do. So, which is fine. You can just do that and you can just think about it for hours and hours and figure these things out. And I've gotten mine into a place where I'm like pretty happy with it because I have, but I have a bunch of extra things, right? I have, this is Control Command Alt on both thumbs and on home row mods. I've command and on every layer, Command Control Alt Shift, Alt Command Shift. I have extra backspace and that and on my symbols layer I have them. Like there's just like extra stuff that you have to do, which you can do. And the reason that I like the Glove 80 and I would recommend it as maybe your first shot at this is because there are so many extra keys. I don't use any of the top two layers, right? I don't use these numbers. I hit my numbers layer. So like I literally could do away with all of these. All of these, and I'd be fine. I never hit any of these. I pretty much don't hit the side keys. Obviously, these are not even assigned. The magic key is just the default one. I do use shift on the outer keys, but like I don't really use that. I do use that a lot. But like I barely ever use this. Like there's just so many extra keys, and then every layer that you do, like I don't even use this. This is an entire layer that I've been playing with for months, thinking, what could I put on this layer? It's an extra key that's like right there. It's a dominant thing. It's very easy. I could just put whatever I want there. And there's just so much extra stuff. So like, it's not a big deal, these cascading effects that you have to find clever, interesting solutions for. But the further you get away from defaults, now it's like, oh, if I want to switch from Glove 80 to literally anything, like they all kind of have a similar layout with the arrows on the curl keys and then so now I have a major suddenly project. If I want to switch to this, I'm like, oh, okay, now there's the same number of curl keys, but now there's these extra keys in here. There's the same number of thumb keys, but they're laid out a bit different. I might want to hit them differently. There's an extra row missing on the top. So there's a lot there. I'm getting off track again. So the other thing is the keycaps are interesting. The chalk keycaps on the Glove 80 are really nice. I like them. I think people that come from the default Mac keyboard or are switching back and forth between the Mac and the laptop keyboard will enjoy these nice, very minimal movement, quiet things. There's also like the Glove 80 is a lot better to pack into a bag. They actually ship it with a case that's custom made for it, so you can easily throw that into a bag and take it to a conference. I've taken it out at coffee shops and whatever. It's not that big of a deal. Versus this thing is, I'd say, maybe a bit more stable, a bit less, more like solid, looks a little bit more heavy. It has the older style of mechanical switches, which I think is probably easier to, I don't know if you could swap out the actual switches, but you could swatch the keycaps. You could switch the keycaps with more common versions of these keycaps, I think. Again, I haven't had one of these, so I don't know all the details of it. But what I'll say is, like, again, whatever you get, if you put the time and effort into it, you're going to get it fast eventually, and you're going to feel good, and it's going to be enjoyable. So like just getting the thing and learning the default, I think is not a bad idea. I already was modding my keyboard. I had this, not this. I had the Keychron K6. So like this comes with one major issue to me. Well, one is no number pad, so that was annoying to type numbers. So I didn't use this ever. This was pre-Vim days. But the escape key, I don't ever use the escape key, and I do need the tilde key. I don't even know where the tilde key is on this key. I think they just omit it. So I need the tilde and the back, especially backtick. I mean, come on. So what I did is I made this, I just used Carabiner, which is like something in software that changes what keys do. The problem with Carabiner is if you have multiple computers, you have to put it on every computer because it's not in the keyboard itself, it's on the computer. If you buy one of these, anything Moonlander, Moergo, Kinesis, anything like this, or even Keychron does QMK, anything where you see QMK or ZMK, you can actually modify the keyboard itself to remap the layers. And this is where I think it is important. It's good to just like read through the documentation. There's all these different crazy things you can do, and your mind will just go crazy with all the infinite possibilities of macros and things that you could do. At one point, I had a key binding that I made that switched to my browser, which was Arc at the time, switched to the first space, which, you know, there's this concept of like workspaces, and then switched to the third tab because that's where I always had localhost. So I had a button on my keyboard that no matter where I was in my system, I could hit the button and it would bring me to localhost on my in the browser, which is like, okay, that's something you could do. And that's like in the keyboard. So as long as I'm using the same browser with the same, you know, synced on another computer, and I could just use that keyboard on any computer, and that button does the same thing. Kind of cool. The downside, or I would say there's a trade-off here, right? If you use one keyboard with multiple computers, it's better to go the ZMK route. But if you use one computer with multiple different keyboards, which I think is probably less likely because that's weird, but if you do, then, you know, Carabiner is actually better. Oh wait, I already have it open here. Carabiner Elements. This is the one. Very good, free software. Works, well maintained, really good stuff. I would say buy whoever's, sponsor the things that you use, so they stay good. It's really good stuff. There's all sorts of stuff, like easy little tricks that you can see, the little recipes in here, community stuff. So if you just want to start playing with that. So anyway, I started playing with that before I got a split ergo keyboard. And so I already had a few things like the arrows layer I already had built into all of my workflow. And just to remind you of the arrows layer, it is when I'm holding this key, I get arrows here, which is really nice for just hitting up like really fast without having to move my fingers. Even the curl key up, so on the default layout, up is here. So on the middle finger curl key, even that is like more of a stretch than just kind of popping my pinky out and hitting the K key. So I don't know, I got used to that, and I was like, I don't want to relearn too much stuff at once. But now that I'm going through this again, I'm like, you know, it doesn't actually matter that much. I actually kind of want to start adopting the default layout, getting my whole situation back closer to this default layout. Because it would be nice to, because you can just hit like, one of my things was like, how do I do Alt-Shift arrows left and right? Because I do that all the time to like select words and then delete them and start typing. Alt-Shift arrow, that's insane. I could hold down this Alt with this Shift and then arrow. That's pinching. Like I'm doing it right now. That's cray. Alt-Shift. How am I supposed to hit this and that at the same time? So like there are things about this. What I did and what I might recommend doing is, if you buy one of these keyboards, immediately change the layout to get as close as possible to like the system. So like put the shift key back out here, you know, just pop the shift. You don't need the shift key here. Just put the shift key back out there. Just while you learn, you can always put it back. You can always pop it back in and learn it. You don't need to try to learn everything at once. So like if the shift key was out here and alt is here, great. Now I can, okay, it's a bit of a stretch. It's a bit, I just did it and it's like a bit weird feeling. It's a bit of a stretch, but not the end of the world. One of the greatest things though is home row mods, which is the idea that these 4 keys, the home row keys, ASDF, JKL semicolon, if you tap them, they do normal those letters, but if you hold them, they do a mod key. For me, I put Control on the pinky, Alt, Command, Shift. I don't use the Shift key very much because I already have the Shift keys out here. But if you really get used to this, there's a little bit of a delay is the reason that I also have them in here. Sometimes I'm just wanting to like hit things really fast. And, but you can get used to that delay, and Sunaku, again, has really dialed this in for the Glove 80. So if you just look at the timings that he put in there, you could use that for any ZMK keyboard. So let me get back to my points here. Solve the problems that are actually problems for you. So once you've established a base, now you're starting to play around with things. You're thinking through, where could I put keys? Should I do a sticky layer? Should I do the thing where if I hit both shifts, it makes it caps lock? And is all these little things that you can do. I would say look at something that's difficult for you after you've gotten, you know, to a medium level of speed and comfortability, because a lot of times it's like, it's not actually a problem. It's just a bit uncomfortable right now. Okay, that's fine. Stick with it until you really find out if it's a problem or not. I think I jumped the gun on these. Like I was like, I hit this all the time and I don't want to be hitting shift with it. Well, I mean, hitting shift and hitting these, I could have got used to it. I also was trying to learn curl keys at the same time. There was a lot going on there, but I don't think I should have taken these really primary nice keys and just used them with that. And I totally wasted these ones too. I barely used tab. I never use this. I literally never use this. I could make this something else because I have backtick on the symbols layer under quote. So it's single quote, shift is double quote, and with the symbols layer, this is backtick. So that's nice having everything under one. Just similar to like backslash and forward slash are on the same key for me. It's just under a symbols layer. Space I only use in certain contexts. So yeah, solve problems that are actual problems, and don't do the weird stuff that I did, because yes, I'm used to it, and yes, it's comfortable, and yes, it's enjoyable, and all that, but I'm not happy with it, and I think I'm going to keep iterating, which is probably a good mentality anyway, but I feel like I did make some mistakes because I jumped on it before getting comfortable with something that when thinking through it, knew was probably better. I was like, oh, I'm going to be different and cool. I'm going to put braces here. Yeah. Layers. I don't know why I put that there. Do people know what layers are? Layers are, I think the point here is these sort of go together. Optimization, speed, muscle memory, modal thinking. Okay, so another mistake I made is thinking that I'm walking through doors that are hard to go back through. And at least for me, I don't know if this is true for everybody, at least for me, that's not a problem. So switching between my regular keyboard and my Glove 80, I never had a problem with. Now granted, I do it every day. Every day I use my laptop, and every day I use my Glove 80, pretty much every day, with rare exceptions. So maybe I'm weird about that, but like if you're doing, what was surprising to me, I guess, is that getting into a different context that is like, oh, now I'm on my laptop and clearly there's a different keyboard in front of me. My brain just kind of goes, yep, switch all the muscle memory around. And then when I'm sitting in this chair and I have my Glavady in front of me, my brain goes, yep, no problem. Switch all the muscle memory around. And it's similar to like, if you're playing a video game, you're playing a first-person shooter, and then you switch to like Mario Kart. Your brain isn't like, whoa, the buttons are different, unless you haven't played it in like a year, So as long as you're keeping up with it, I think your muscle memory is surprisingly adaptable, even with programs. So this goes into my thought about layers, right? I could see a world where you just have a different layer for every program, and you just swap sticky layers. There's a thing where you can hold down the button to get in a layer, but there's a thing where you can just tap a button and now you're in that layer, and you can tap a different button and you go to a different layer. So you could have like a Google Docs layer that's optimized for typing, a Vim layer that's optimized for Vim and symbols, and it like exposes symbols, like expose this stuff on the base, but not all the time, only in Vim when I'm typing braces in code a lot. This would make more sense. Expose a layer just for your special situation. I think when I started out with this, I was like, that seems terrible because that's a lot to learn, and then I'm not going to remember where anything is, and blah, blah, blah. And it's probably true that that's more upfront learning level, so I wouldn't do that sort of advanced stuff until you have that solid base. But it's surprising how easy it is to move around. And another point about this is like, I at first was trying to hyper optimize to be like, oh, I only want the command key in one place, and I either want to use home row mods or I want no home row mods. And like, well, that's the wrong mentality, because yes, I have a command key here, command key here, command key here, and command key here, and on each layer I have a command key there. So I've let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 ways to hit the command key. I will hit the command key, a different key, depending on what situation I'm in, and it's not effortful. That's the thing that's surprising, right? It's like, oh, when I need to page up and down in Vim with Control P and N, or wait, D and U, or P and N to like go up one and down. That's a common shortcut in a lot of things, but D and U, I don't use the home row mod because I know there's a delay. I hit this one. But when I'm just editing text and I want to forward delete and I want to hit Control D, I use this one. Because I don't mind that little bit of a delay because I'm not in Vim going really fast. It's just surprising how like, if you have all these options of things and your brain just starts to adapt to different situations, and it's not a relearning process, and it's not effortful every time. It's just like, oh yeah, now I'm editing text, so now I just changed the way I do things. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. It's okay to have more than one way. And I think this is as far as I want to go. I have a lot of thoughts about all different things and opinions and stuff, but like most of them, I'm walking back in my own head, and a lot of stuff I'm like, I want to go back and I want to kind of get back to these defaults. I kind of want to get a kinesis. Oh, another quick tip. If you're having wrist pain, this definitely helps. If you hover instead of resting your wrist, it definitely helps. And if your company pays for some kind of a health spending account or health budget, a lot of times you can expense these very expensive keyboards as a health thing, because they're actually a health thing. So check out that if that's a thing. I wish I could just like borrow some of these. There should be a keyboard store where you can just go and like actually hook it to your computer and do work for a couple hours. That would be so fun. That would be so cool. Anyway, is there anything I missed? Charcorder is a thing that I did a lot of research on, but I never purchased. I think it's probably the future of a lot of things, but it's not quite there yet. But if you want to be an early adopter and really test stuff out, the idea is like steno in courtrooms, where you have different combinations of buttons that you press to create words, basically sort of like snippets in code, right? Where you just like, and then it like does the whole thing. This is how this works, and it's pretty easy to configure in line, but there are enough things that are odd with it that I wouldn't particularly recommend it right now. This is one that just came out, and this is something that I hope that Glove 80 and Kinesis jump on. This idea that I don't have to have a mouse in between my keyboard, but I can just reach somewhere with my thumbs or somewhere to do mouse stuff, like putting the trackball here or having that thing there. Yeah, this looks really cool. But once I tried the curved key wells, I don't really want to go back to something like this. Also, there's just not enough thumb buttons. Sorry, like a space on each side. Yeah, this one in particular is not for me, but I love the effort that they're putting out here. This is cool. They just focus on the editor and like having these nice, or if you want super ergonomic where you're just moving as little as possible. This is pretty cool stuff. Carabiner, check out if you're just getting into stuff. And yeah, what is this? Oh, that's that thing. I will catch you all in the next one.